be discussing one of the big game changer in Tim Burton's career, a little film known as Batman. So Batman takes place in Gotham City, as you would imagine, but rather than Batman being the focus of the film, it actually takes most of its focus on its villain, the Joker, also known as Jack Napier, as played by Jack Nicholson. A lot of Jacks right there. Regardless of that, Jack is in some deep water after he's cheating on his boss's wife or girlfriend, they don't really explain, and they tell him they're doing this job, but they set him up as a patsy. Batman accidentally drops him in a vat of chemicals, which obviously turns him into the Joker, as we all know him. And now the Joker plans on poisoning all the makeup supplies in Gotham City, and now it's up for our hero Batman to come and rescue. Prior to this movie being made, there was a lot of controversy. Not a lot of people were feeling confident with the fact that Tim Burton, who established himself mostly as a new director and directing comedies like Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, to direct a big comic book character. But as it's known, Tim Burton did a really good job. I'll dare say that not only is this one of the best comic book movies, but I think this is a pretty big game changer. A lot of the elements that work in this movie, a lot of comic book movies would follow. Comic book movies is a relatively new genre at this point. I mean, other than Superman, were there really a lot of comic book movies that you can think of? Comic books, like superhero comics, combine a lot of elements of sci-fi, action, and comedy, and adventure. So you have all those things going together, so how are you going to make it work? Tim Burton usually doesn't take the style of the comics, since he's not really a big fan of the comics to begin with, but he understands how a film is supposed to work, and in some ways takes good elements that work about superheroes and transition it to film. So when you have a villain die, oops, spoilers, but when you have a villain die in this movie, it makes sense in the context of the movie versus a comic book, which is this ongoing series. Another one of those things that prior to this movie being made was the fact that they were casting Michael Keaton as Batman. I did not mind this that much. Obviously, the movie didn't come out. I was born after this movie was made, so I didn't know the whole controversy surrounding her. I didn't really view Michael Keaton as just a comedy actor. But after seeing this movie, I think he handled the role really well. Do I think he's one of the best Bruce Waynes? Probably not, but I do think he handled the role really well, to the point where I believe he did a good job playing this character. Someone you would not expect to be the Batman. Another thing I liked about this film that Tim Burton did was dive into the psychology of its villain, the Joker. It was mentioned early on in this film that the Joker, prior to being dropped into the chemicals, was actually this brilliant, he was not just a thug basically, he was brilliant in like chemistry and math, which is why he was able to poison the whole makeup supplies, and for some reason it works. I feel like the Joker was a really good villain. It was a really good opposite for Batman, which is what the Joker is always supposed to be. The city looks gorgeous. I love this. It doesn't look like a set. This looks like a legitimate city, like you can live in the city. You smell the dinginess, you feel like, you know, the dark alleys really look like dark alleys in a city. To me, this is what Gotham City always should have looked like, and I really think the city is one of the big elements, to the point where it's almost like its own character in the movie. Really good comic book movie, I think you should check it out, and when I come back, we will be watching one of the biggest Tim Burton movies. I know I'm really upping the ante right here after saying that this is like one of the big Tim Burton movies, but regardless, this is going to be one of those really big Tim Burton movies, and that film is Edward Scissorhands.